Loads to talk about, and I wanted to start off with the big breaking news this morning from Ornstein. There's been pushback from it from the agent, but reportedly Victor Osimhen to Chelsea is on with the loan with an option to buy. The talk from Damasio has said there will be no loan, but has stated it will be £70 million plus Lukaku. First and foremost, thoughts on that deal for Chelsea, mate?
Well, I think they needed a striker, and there's very few strikers out there in the world right now, and Osimhen is one of the best. You know what I mean? It's a fact. You might not. People can say, "Oh, I'm not a massive fan of Osimhen or whatever," but the facts are that the striker market is a bit dead, and he is one of the best. So for me, listen, I've criticised Chelsea a lot on this show. You know, over the last 6-7 months, however long we've done Straight Facts, right? I've criticised them a lot because I think they deserve it. I think they deserve the criticism. But this is a deal for me, which I think they needed. They absolutely needed. And, I think that if they get the deal done, I think it's great news for Chelsea fans because they need a striker. I mean, Jackson, I feel a bit sorry for him, right? Because I don't really think that the position that he was playing last year is his natural position. And he obviously took a lot of flack throughout the season. I think actually towards the end of the season, people started to sort of lay off him a little bit because he started doing better. But listen, for me personally, I think it's a great deal for Chelsea. I think this is going to... I just think it's what they need. I still think, obviously, they've got this goalkeeper as well. Don't know too much about him, so don't ask me about him. But in terms of Osimhen, listen, I genuinely think this is a great deal. And at least they're making moves that they need to make moves. So if you look at Chelsea, I know we'll come on to Liverpool later on, right? I look at Chelsea. Over the last 6 months, I said they need a striker, they need a striker, they need a striker. So what they're doing, they go and get a striker. And they're going to get one of the best strikers if this deal goes through. Look at someone like Liverpool, for example. They need a DM, right? Everyone knows that. And then they're messing around, like, are they going to do a deal or they're not going to do a deal? So I just think Chelsea fans should be happy with this. I think it's a good deal. And let's see how he gets on, man. Good player.
I agree. Potsy, you back with us?
Yeah, can you hear me, lads?
Yeah, all good. And see you fine, mate. Yeah, no issues.
Don't know what was happening there, man. All I heard was LB go, "Do you know what yet?" And then the whole of my screen went black. So I have no idea what he said. Clearly, it was offensive.
No. He basically said, "I've got to organise it. All expenses paid. We'll meet up in a beer garden and film an episode." That's what he said.
Listen, I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. If it does go off, then apologies. My Wi-Fi is moving mad. Maybe it's the heat. But listen, the Osimhen deal. If this happens for Chelsea, I think it's a brilliant deal, man. I think it's a brilliant deal. I think this is the absolute perfect signing for Chelsea. They need ready-made players. They need win-now players. They need upgrades on what they've got, which isn't hard, let's be real, in terms of their youngsters. So for me, this would be a brilliant signing. And nevertheless, the fact that if it is true, Lukaku going the other way permanently, which, by the way, is a player that they see as a bum that they're getting rid of, and then they're getting a loan with an option to buy if Ornstein is correct. I mean, that is absolutely crazy. This is a mad deal. One of the best deals that you'll see, in my opinion. People were talking only last season of him being 150 million or 120 million or whatever. They can get him with a loan with an option. I mean, that is incredible for me. I think this would be a brilliant signing. I rate him. I think he's a good player. I'm interested to see how he gets on in the Prem. And I think, personally, Chelsea can be excited if this one happens. I think this could be one of the deals of the summer. I really do.
Can I ask you a question, yeah? Do you think these owners now, are realising that they need to get a little bit more ready-made players? Because one of the criticisms that we've had of Chelsea over the last year or even longer is that they're buying too many young players, too many players that need time to grow, like 2-3 year projects. And like we've said, you need to buy some. You don't have to buy all of them. You can have a couple of those players, but you need to buy like a ready-made player. And for me, Osimhen is that guy. He is that ready-made player. And I think they're realising. I think the Chelsea guys up top are realising that they can't just keep buying 19, 20 on you. You've got to go and get some experience.
If I'm a Chelsea fan, I'm hoping that's the case. But we've got to see more than just Osimhen, because they've got to keep going. For me, like when they're linked with a 22-year-old Villarreal goalkeeper and a 21 Ivory Coast centre-half that I've never heard of, that's never good news alongside the Osimhen one. You've got to be looking now going, Osimhen plus, and you start hearing these names, even if they're not that old, even if they're like the mould of Eze, or they're the mould of Pedro Neto, or they're the mould of those type of players that Tottenham and Arsenal and being linked with, even if it was Tony. I know they're not going to go now for him now, obviously, if they go for Osimhen, but these are sort of players you don't look at and go, they're old, but you look at and they go, they're ready. They're Premier League proven. None of this 22 years old, give him 4 or 5 years. He might be all right by the time he's 25, 26. They've got enough of them, man. They've got enough of them. They need to be going in now with this window and going, right, we've got our youth. We're going to be fine in the next few years in terms of our age. Now let's go and get some ready-made players now. Because let's be real, boys. I don't know about you. LB and I might disagree with this, but I look at the league table right now and I go, right, Man City and Arsenal, now I don't have a clue. Now I have no idea. I could not predict from 3rd to 10th. I would have no Scooby. I could give it a go, but I wouldn't put money on it. I'll be anywhere near getting it correct. So Chelsea, like Liverpool, like Man United, like Spurs, like Villa, like Newcastle, they are going to be we could come 3rd or we could come 10th. No idea. So they've got to go and do the business to be ready right now, Chelsea. It's about now. And all this time we're thinking about, Arsenal have done it. And guess what they'll be like in 5 years? Guess what they'll be? Why is it always in 5 years? Why isn't it now? Go and buy some players now. The trophies are there to be won, man.
And that's where the balance is needed. And I think when you look at Chelsea's summer, the young players they buy, and I honestly think they get their PR wrong on this, because Chelsea create a fanfare, a here we go moment with every deal, and they don't need to. They've brought in that Caleb Wiley, didn't need to make a fanfare. There's that Renato Vega, didn't need to make a fanfare. Amari Kellerman, they probably did, because that feels like it's all part of that way of everybody sort of saving some money, right? They've got this Mark, I pronounced it wrong,
Mark Gui or something? Yeah.
Gui, I think it's Gui, that's the one. Again, a lot of people hyping him up. But they bought youngsters. They should just come in through the back door almost. No real fanfare. The actual 2 signings they've made so far have been Tosin and Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, who fit exactly what we're talking about, which is tried and tested experienced players. Now, the first 2 are not superstars by any means, but they're in their mid-20s, they're experienced, they understand English football, and they'll improve the spine of the football team. You add Osimhen to this, and I'll echo everything you both said. Experience, speed, good finisher, light years ahead in front of goal of the likes of Jackson and co. So that's 3. You throw in one more signing of that kind of ilk, 24, 25 years of age, good quality player. That's 4 main deals, and potentially one of these youngsters might actually be a gem that they feature a lot in their first team next year. Bringing in 5 players in the summer is sensible. This idea of bringing in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 every single summer, you keep having a new blend of players that don't know each other very well. I actually think if they end up with 4, maybe 5 signings, that's really sensible year one. Same with my club. We're linked to loads of names, but I don't want us to sign 8, 9, 10 players for the first team. I genuinely feel that amount, it's hard to get it to click. You saw Forest a few years ago do it. Took them ages to click. Chelsea did it 2 years running. Didn't click at all. I think you need to taper it well in terms of how many people come in. And if they if they land this Osimhen deal, then one more guy of similar, even if he's in between Osimhen's level and Dewsbury Hall's level, someone in between, I think it's been a really good summer for Chelsea. And that could give them the sort of foundation to really start fighting back next year. By the way,
just coming on that, you know what that does though, Terry? Because I agree with what you're saying, but that puts even more pressure on Maresca, because what we're saying is the team is, like Dan said, the team is probably capable of getting in, and it's certainly capable of being in a top 4 challenge. Now, some people in the chat might say there's no way Chelsea can get top 4, maybe, but no one can sit here and say they're going to be. Well, no one should be sitting here saying they're going to be a million miles away from top 4. Like the team, if they got Osimhen, right, they've got a new goalkeeper, right, and they can have some luck with their injuries, they should be in and around that top 4 battle minimum. So what this is actually going to do, this is actually going to just ramp up the pressure on Maresca. If you look at Pochettino's Chelsea team last year, he had no striker and the goalkeeper situation wasn't ideal, right? And obviously he had injuries as well. He wasn't going to get that team top 4, to be honest with you. Whereas Maresca now, Maresca's got some pressure on him, man. So it will be interesting to see how he gets on with that team, especially if he gets Osimhen. You know what I mean? He's a big player, Osimhen, and he's a big ego as well. That's something that we've not spoke about. Yeah, he's always in the news. You know what I mean? People always talking about him and that. And how is Maresca? This is going to be obviously Maresca's biggest job that he's ever had. I think it's only the second managerial job in his career. Is he going to have is he going to be able to handle a player like that? And not just him, other players at Chelsea as well. There's plenty of other players at Chelsea that have those egos. So I think Chelsea is one of the most exciting teams in the Premier League this year to watch in terms of let's see how it goes, man. Because as Potsy said, I don't know where they're going to finish.
I watched their game the other night. The attacking football looked slick. fluid, and there's a foundation there to grow from. Defensively, they look an absolute mess in the first 2 preseason games, but there's so much time to work on that and fix it in the next few weeks. Few tweaks, few twerks, players coming back as well. I think that's key. They're getting their main 2 midfielders are coming back as an example. Cole Palmer's coming back. If they bring in the Osimhen, Dewsbury Hall hasn't kicked a ball yet. So they've got 3 midfielders to come into that team, plus Palmer, potentially Osimhen. Yeah, I'm excited about watching Chelsea. If I remove my Man United hat and just look at this as a football fan, I'm excited to see what they do. Good, bad, or indifferent, it's going to be exciting. And I want to just say this here. This guy keeps saying it's fake and says the agent has spoken, demanding respect from the journalist. Of course he has. Because Osimhen's agent probably doesn't like the idea that it's gone public that Chelsea might do a loan with an option to buy, because that makes his client look undesirable. We'll loan him, and then at the end of it, we'll decide whether we want him. What his agent wants is either a purchase or a loan with an obligation to buy, because that's him doing his job to the best of his ability. I would say this about David Ornstein. He's very rarely wrong. And normally when he starts talking about a transfer, it typically speaking goes through. Now, you'll all be able to cite examples where it hasn't happened, but go and, if you really want to be smart asses, go and look at his last 5 years when he starts seriously talking about transfers and do a percentage of how many have gone through and how many have not come to fruition. I bet he's in the 80s plus percentile of getting it right. So he's very accurate. He doesn't just put things out there. His agent is just probably trying to protect him a little bit. But from my perspective, this is a real story. And we've known all summer that Chelsea are looking at him because he's consistently been linked. And I think the good thing is this. There was ideas that Chelsea were going to drop 70 million euros on Samu Almirodian. And I'm thinking, if you can 70 million for him or 70 million euros for Victor Osimhen, it's just a no-brainer. I mean, they're both a risk. There's always a risk a player won't work out. But why buy a kid who's unknown, untried and tested, even in La Liga, let alone moving countries, emigrating, the Premier League as well on top. And the league is very hard as well, of course. It's crazy. For me, this is as close to being a sure thing as you can get. There's always a percentage that it won't work out, but this is absolutely bang on from Chelsea. And all the haters in the comment section, it's fake, it won't happen, Chelsea haven't got Paul. Shut up. They could end up with Victor Osimhen, one of the most desired. By the way, and the only reason other clubs haven't gone in for him is they don't want to pay the 130+ million pound buyout clause. Chelsea have got an advantage because they have, what would you say Lukaku's worth? 30 million, 40 million in the current market?
Probably not even that.
I'd say about 30 million. How old is he now?
Tops.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where you look at it and it's a case of 100 million deal. People just haven't been prepared to pay that. That's not because he's a bad footballer. It's 100 million is a lot of money. Do you know what I'm saying? And